Today, we are going to be covering follow-up. This topic is one that I could talk about for a very long time, but it is crucial to your success in terms of converting leads and turning them into actual paying customers. Repeat sales, one-time sales, whatever the sale may be, we want to make sure that we're actually generating revenue from the leads that we're bringing in. The question is, are your leads hearing from you again after they say they'd like to take the next step? If so, which channels are you using to communicate with them? How frequently are you doing it? And what is the messaging? What are the options that you're giving them? So we have really shifted in the last couple of years from relying extremely heavily on email follow-up to incorporating other types of follow-up as well, most specifically text messages. Text messages are a no-brainer for anyone in business because, as we all know, everyone basically lives life with their phone glued to their hand. So you can guarantee that the message you're sending should be at least received and seen. And if it's seen, you're going to have a much higher chance that the person seeing it is going to take the action that you are suggesting they take. So if you are not using text message marketing in your business, it's the very first thing I want you to consider. There's really no reason to not be using this type of follow-up in 2021. Email is all well and good. We still use email, but we are not going to rely on email as our primary and only channel of communication with leads because you simply don't know if they're actually getting those emails. There are so many things that could happen to prevent that email from being seen by that person. It could go to an email they don't check very frequently. It could be marked as spam by their provider and never delivered. It could just be kicked back due to, something that you have inside of it and their server doesn't like that. They could also just delete a lot of messages before reading because they get a ton of emails. And so they're trying to clear out their inbox. And even if your email was good or if they needed to read it, they simply were never going to do that because the inbox is a crazy cluttered place. It also could go to something like a promotions tab. So there are a tremendous number of ways that email could not be delivered to those you want it delivered to, which means that if you have only been relying on email or using email primarily, that's the first thing you have to change. If you are not even using email, you really, really, really need to get with the program, so to speak, because leads that have zero communication after the fact, it's going to be highly unlikely that those people convert. It just is not going to be common. So what you need to do is take whatever the offer was, whatever the conversation was, whatever you were having them opt in for, and you then need to take that conversation off of that original lead source, because really it wasn't a conversation before, unless it was something like a referral and it was word of mouth directly. So the question is, where are you sending these people? Like we talked about yesterday, your funnel. So when someone is signing up for something through a landing page or through a funnel, yes, they can get more information than you might be able to with, say, something like a lead form or maybe Messenger, but that doesn't actually mean that people have read everything on that page. It's very easy for people to overlook really important calls to action or steps that you need them to take. And if they don't take it, you might think, well, if they were truly interested, they would have purchased. If they were truly interested, they would have scheduled a call. If they were truly interested, they would have, texted the keyword or whatever your next step may be. But that's just not true, especially when we're talking about social media leads. And this really applies to just about any lead because of the way our society currently works. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone has access to a million tabs at all times. Your phone could ring at any moment. Your text messages could go off, or something in real life pulls your attention away. If somebody doesn't complete the step that you're asking them to complete it does not mean they didn't want to. It means that something stopped them from doing that. Whether that was a technical issue, maybe on your end, that's another great reason to have follow-up so that you can actually see if people are saying, hey, I'm trying to schedule this appointment and it's not working. Or maybe, you are just trying to really understand what it is that people are not loving, that's preventing them from actually taking that next step. So your communication channels are about more than just reminding them about this offer or to progress them in the process. It really can be the main form of direct communication with your prospects, especially those that don't turn into sales. Like we talked about on Monday, on day one, you really need to be asking people who don't buy why they're not buying if you genuinely don't know. That information is crucial. Again, text messaging is the easiest way for people to provide that info to you because they're right there on their phone. Most people do believe that someone is going to see a text message response, as opposed to most people do not believe that an email response is necessarily going to get to the person who they're intending it to get to. So I'm sure those of you that are watching are probably thinking a couple of things. Either A, I'm not using any type of follow-up. We're not doing phone call follow-up. We're not doing text follow-up. We're not doing email or messenger. So how do I get started with that? And then people who are using maybe one or two of these channels, you're asking, well, how do I actually get those other forms of follow-up? And then we're going to start talking about what you actually should be using for your follow-up. What's appropriate? What are some different campaign ideas? How can you utilize these tools to generate more sales, not just from new leads, but also from your existing leads as well? So to the group that said, I am not doing any type of follow-up, I've been doing lead generation potentially, but we don't have anything automated to continue to reach out to these leads. You really need some tools to allow you to do this. I highly discourage people from having multiple platforms for all of these different follow-up tools. The first one is that it's more expensive to have several different tools. The second reason is that it's a lot more effective if you can mix them together in the same campaign, because your timing of all these messages typically needs to be related to one another. And if you're not doing them in the same platform, timing those messages correctly is going to be a nightmare and sometimes not even possible at all. So looking for a program that allows you to do multiple things in one program. There are a couple of them out there. You guys know I love Go Highlevel. That is definitely my platform that I prefer. And I have tried literally about everything. I've tried ActiveCampaign. I've tried Salesforce. I've tried Infusionsoft. I've tried all the parts and pieces of different programs. And I love Highlevel because A, it's less expensive. B, it's easier for you to actually incorporate these things into your business. C, the timing works out, whereas it does not work out well on every other platform. And finally, you can actually track all of these things back to your actual leads because it has a CRM, customer relationship management tool, and a sales pipeline, as well as automations built into the platform. Let's say I wanted to know when someone who got my text message purchased. It's a very easy thing to do in Highlevel. It's not always easy to do when you're trying to mix these different platforms together and try and connect all of them perfectly. For those of you who are not doing all of the follow-up channels, maybe you're doing one or two, I still would suggest Highlevel, but it does depend on what you're already using. There may be a different option for you. Granted, we have worked with so many different people, those that did already have an existing platform. Like a lot of our clients, they were actively using Infusionsoft before we started working together. And so I never just want to drag someone away from a platform they're using. However, I'm always going to suggest something that I think is going to be a better fit. So I'll ask them, is everyone on your team using this every single day? And if the answer is no, then you already are in a good position to switch, because this type of platform really only does its job if it's being used by everyone that's either in the sales or customer service type of aspects, marketing as well. If people aren't using it every day, the information's not even accurate. And then the things that you're hoping to automate, they're not going to be automated. So that is a good time to switch because you haven't fully integrated that platform into your business. The second thing that I ask them is, how many of the features are you actually using? Most of them say only about 10% of the actual features of this program are we using. Again, why are you paying hundreds of dollars a month for an email provider that ultimately you could be getting for free? And most people go into it with the intention of, wanting to use all of those things. But that brings me to my next point. They're not very user friendly. They're not intuitive. It's very hard for the average person, even those that are technologically savvy, to really dive into these platforms and figure them out right away in a way that actually helps their business. What you don't want to do is have a platform that you're paying, anywhere from $100 to $300 or $400 a month for, that you're not even using, because while you figure it out, you're still paying for that. So those are the questions I would ask yourself in terms of, do you want to stay on the programs that you currently have, or are you open to switching? Switching can be a lot less stressful than a lot of people assume, but the fear of doing that keeps them from ever adding in some of these amazing features. So we use in our follow-up just about everything we possibly can. So in marketing, it has been proven that it usually takes at least 8 touches for someone to convert. And based on the studies that have been done in recent years through social media, that number is increasing. It could be 20 or 30 touches that it takes someone to convert. So it doesn't have to be ad impressions. It doesn't have to be someone who's seeing your ad or opting in 30 times. It's all of these different points of contact that add up to that, anywhere between 8 to 32 touch points before a conversion takes place. So what you need to do is strategically decide what you want people to get from you, but you also need to have the ability to implement these follow-up systems. So if you don't have the ability to do that, nothing I'm going to show you today is even going to be possible for you right now. And so that's why I really talk about this first. It is a great program. I do advocate for it. I'm not an affiliate marketer. That is not how I make my money. So I have no reason to encourage people into a direction that I don't truly believe is best for them. And just having worked with so many different businesses on the client side and in my mentorship program, it tends to be the best option for everyone. So what I'm going to do now is talk about some of the different options that we have and the ways that we like to use this platform. So a couple of the campaigns that you guys are really going to want to have. So the first one is just a lead follow-up campaign. But the first thing that they're going to get is the text message. Then they're going to get an email. So we try and use email and text message kind of in a bundle together, so to speak, because we want someone to get that message. And if they're not getting it on email, we want them to get it on text. If for some reason the text is undelivered, we want them to get it on email. So never rely on just one form of communication if possible. We do another one 2 days later. We continue with a couple more emails. We check back in. We do a voicemail later on. If you're not really focused on taking the leads that you're generating and making sure that there is no possible way they would forget about you after showing interest or opting in, because they're not going to get into this if they don't intentionally opt in first. And I think that's really key here. You don't just want to blast everyone you've ever known with this type of thing. If someone is opting in for something very intentionally, that should be a sign that they are interested. If they do not convert, it's your obligation as a business owner to do everything in your power to make sure that they had that chance, that they didn't forget, that it didn't hit them at a busy time, or maybe if they needed to think about it, that they have some time to think about it, but they also have an easy way to come back to that offer and finish signing up. So I really like voicemail drops. I don't hear them talked about very often, but a voicemail drop is essentially delivering a voicemail to someone without having to call them. It should just deliver as a voicemail without their phone ringing. However, every phone carrier is a little bit different. So sometimes the phone will ring once and it'll hang up and then leave that voicemail. These are really great for people who have some reason to have a personal connection with their client base. And in reality, all of us do. I don't see this used very frequently with e-commerce style businesses, but if you are a local business or if you are a personal brand and people expect that it would be natural to talk to a real human being, this can be a great way to re-engage or engage someone for the first time. And the beauty of this is that you're going to get a lot of phone calls back. So anyone who has a business where getting someone on the phone is a really great next step, voicemail drops can be awesome. You are going to get people that will see maybe that they had a missed call from someone, and they'll just call that number back. It's a little bit more rare in today's day and age that people will do that, only because we get so many telemarketer and spam calls. However, you will get that. I really like that fact. Some people, if they're not prepared, it might stress them out. But the strategy here is, if somebody calls you back, they're already going to know who you are, because they wouldn't be getting this unless you had their number and their contact information, which I would assume they're just not giving out to everybody. The second thing is, they've gotten multiple emails and texts already from us, so they should be more aware of who we are and what we do, or this business in this case. If they just call the number back, even if they say, hey, I just got a missed call from this number, it's a perfect opportunity for a phone salesperson, which is who should be getting these phone calls, not just your receptionist with no heads up. That's something we'll talk about a little bit later, which is training your staff regarding your follow-up. But it gets them on the phone. They can say, hey, yes, we wanted to ask if you had any questions about this offer that you signed up for, or finishing your account, or scheduling your first laundry pickup. We noticed you haven't gone ahead and scheduled your first one yet, so I wanted to make sure if you needed anything that I was here to help, and hopefully we can get that done over the phone today. It's a very easy segue if you're prepared for it. And if they're not interested, they can tell you, and that's just fine. Then you can remove them from the active leads list and move on. You don't have to worry about following up with that person. So I found that a lot of people, they don't want people unsubscribing. They don't want people, calling them back and not knowing why they're being called with any of these. And that could be email, text message, or voicemail drop. The problem with that logic is, it's much better for people to tell you, no, I'm not interested anymore, than for you to try and call that person 100 times over the next year trying to get a response, but you never do. That's a waste of your time. I would much rather any day of the week someone simply say, hey, I'm not interested right now, or hey, I'll never be interested. Just getting the information is enough to say, hey, we don't have to spend time checking in with this person anymore. And if that situation changes, they can reach out to us. I also hear people concerned that if they send too many emails, it's going to hurt their business. Every study that's ever been performed on email has a direct correlation with how many emails you're sending and how your business grows and how much money you're bringing in. I get people that, work with me that will comment on it. They'll say, hey man, you send a lot of emails, does that take a lot of time? Do you get a lot of people that are upset? And, I'll tell them, yeah, we get people that unsubscribe. Everybody does if you're actively sending emails, but we make a ton of money from our email campaigns. People schedule appointments all the time just from our email campaigns. So if you're not sending for fear of people unsubscribing, it's a lose-lose situation. You may not be getting unsubscribes, but you're also not making any money. You're not really reaching the people who want to work with you. If somebody unsubscribes, it's not a big deal. They can always resubscribe later. If you have other offers and gated content offers they can opt into, it's not like you've lost this person forever. Sometimes people are just going through their email and trying to clean it up and unsubscribe from a bunch of stuff. And sometimes it's just not a good time anymore, so they don't need those emails. You cannot take personal offense to any of this. So one thing about text message marketing is that it has the greatest success rate of just about anything, but you will get some responses that you did not expect. Okay. You'll also get these with email too, but People, even people who just opted in and gave you their phone number and things like that, they can be incredibly rude and to be perfectly honest, just hateful. There's never a reason for that. I mean, I get text messages from companies that I've opted in for things and that I've done business with in the past, and I have never felt the urge to cuss at someone. I have never felt the urge to do anything other than respond and let them know I am or am not interested, or type in the word stop, which everybody knows unsubscribes you from text messages. So if you get those text message responses, do not let that deter you from doing this type of marketing, because that is a small group of very hateful people that anything could have set them off. You really have to understand that, because we've had so many clients over the years where we'll do something called a reactivation campaign. This is a campaign we're actually going to be I'll be giving you guys in that snapshot I talked about on Friday. If you hang out to the end of the challenge, this campaign can produce a tremendous amount of sales or scheduled calls in a very short time. Even when our clients are getting like 30 appointments booked over the course of a day or two, they'll get a couple of FU text messages and they'll be like, maybe we should stop this campaign. Maybe we should turn it off. Why would you let the two crazies deter you from running a campaign that's bringing in a tremendous amount of appointments? You have to understand that anyone who doesn't like your content or your follow-up, that's fine. They don't have to get it. They can unsubscribe. It's not a big deal. It does not mean that the overall response will be the same. So if you do this type of marketing, prepare yourself for that. It does happen. I brush it off, where I'll just tell them that I really hope they have a better day, because clearly they're, really dealing with some heavy stuff to respond that way. And I truly believe that, because there's just never a reason for anyone to act like that. So I personally say, I'm glad you spoke up, because I can guarantee you I would not do business with you if you paid me $1 million after seeing what kind of person you are. So you don't need that business. Don't let that deter you. This works very well. This is a very simple campaign. It is designed to go to your past leads or maybe past clients if you have a recurring revenue business. So this is simply presenting a new offer to them. It is really that simple. What this campaign really shows is that most businesses are never making offers to their list, ever. Because when you do it, especially if you've never done it before, you're going to get a lot of responses. Those are people that could have responded, purchased, scheduled an appointment. They could have done that before, but you never made the offer. So half of your follow-up really has to be focused on making offers, because that is how your business will produce revenue. It cannot be 100% content that's value-based. That's great to mix in there, but your value-based content matters very little unless you're giving people a reason to take the next step. It doesn't matter what they opted in for before, how long ago it was. For most businesses, those leads could still be viable leads, but they never follow up with them again. The biggest complaint, ask any marketing agency ever, which this is really a two-way street, but every marketing agency will tell you that lead follow-up is the single biggest challenge that they deal with their clients, because phone follow-up is still critical. Okay. This does not replace phone follow-up. You need to actively be trying to get people on the phone, because there is virtually no better place to have that sales conversation. If you're an e-commerce business, yeah, you may not want to get people on the phone. It's probably one of the only cases, but that's not even a rule. There are a lot of e-commerce businesses that if someone doesn't convert and they have their contact information, they will reach out. This is not old school. This is still required. So you have to realize that all of this that we're talking about, it's automation, but it's not without the human connection. You cannot simply expect automated messages to do everything for you. If you're selling anything, people buy from people. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. People buy when other people reach out and help them with that buying decision if they have any questions or concerns. So this does not replace phone follow-up. That's a big struggle for agencies. Most times, even if they do phone follow-up, they call them once and never call them back again. I mean, I can't tell you how many purchases businesses have lost out on from me that I have been genuinely interested in buying. They called once, I was on a call. Right now, if somebody calls me, I can't answer the phone. I'm not going to answer the phone. If that's the only time they call me, they're not going to get my business. Even if they leave a message, I'm not going to check my messages right now, because as soon as I'm done, I'm going to hang out with my daughter, eat dinner, try and relax. I'm not going to be focused on my phone. So you have to realize people have lives. And if someone doesn't want you to call them again, they'll tell you. But if you never get a hold of them, they can't tell you one way or the other. So having these messages is where marketing agencies fail. They assume that it's all on the client, that the client needs to be calling 24 hours a day. And that's not right. And that's not even logical. There does need to be phone follow-up. However, marketers that are watching this, that are listening to this, your job is not done once a lead comes in. It's not complete. You have got to inch that person as close as humanly possible to the sale. You don't want to really just say, oh, leads in, hands off, no more to do. That's the reason why so many businesses have negative experiences with marketing agencies. They think they're doing something great, but they're barely providing the minimum. The minimum is just providing ad services. If you don't do anything outside of that, then you're really not helping your clients the way that you should be. This is a system. This is not one ad and we make $1 million. So please understand that both parties need to work together. So if you're a business that hires marketers, make sure that you ask questions about things like this before you hire someone. That would solve a lot of your problems, because you'd actually be educated on what they will or will not be doing. If you're a marketer, please incorporate things like this into your business for the sake of your clients if you genuinely want to help them grow. So this reactivation campaign, this is for past leads. We're saying, hey, we just came up with a new offer. You can get 20% off your next order. Here's a link where you can schedule a time to talk. Okay, very similar email. Then we've got a kind of a last chance text. Hey, I don't know if you saw my last message. I wanted to try one more time. We'll also incorporate a voicemail drop in these for a lot of clients, and those can work really well. So this is as simple as a reactivation campaign is, but it has tremendous results. So if you can get great results with a campaign this simple, imagine what you could do if you really put some effort into it. If you are an owner and you have staff that's responsible for this, the first thing I want to make sure you know is they don't care as much as you do. And they're never going to. And that's okay as long as you recognize it and can do things to account for it. If someone says, yeah, we're following up with all of these leads, but no, they're not really interested, or these leads aren't very good, that should be a red flag, because that's simply never going to happen if they're actually opting in for something that says they're interested. I've been in-house at large companies as the marketing director. I did that for over 5 years before I started my business. And I saw firsthand, there is no process for most of these businesses. They're letting every individual salesperson decide how they do follow-up. There's no systemized process there. And they're also not checking in on any of it. So people respect what you inspect. If you haven't physically seen the evidence of these people being followed up with, you can only assume it didn't happen. And that is the way that you have to operate. It's not from a cynical perspective. It's the fact that if someone's not doing their job and they're not actually following up with leads, do you really think they're going to tell you that if you ask them? No, people are trying to cover their own butt if they're not doing their job. So they're not going to come out and say it. They're going to try and blame somebody else. They're going to say, oh, well, the leads aren't good, or, oh, well, yeah, they were good, but I guess they didn't close. Ask the salesperson. You know, whatever it is to shift the blame from them. So make sure you're actually checking in on this. And that's another reason I love this system. Every communication is trackable. You can see every single person who's engaged. Every outbound phone call, every inbound phone call, every voicemail, every text message, every Facebook message, every email response, all of those are saved with each and every lead. And you can actually automate it to see who's following up and who's not. I do that on a fairly regular basis. If I believe that there are people that aren't following up, that's how you can know for sure. Because the truth is, if you don't know the reason your leads aren't converting, you're probably going to try and fix something that isn't the cause. So let's say your ads are great, you're getting a lot of leads, none of the leads are converting. The person in charge of follow-up says, I call all of them. I call them really quickly, and none of them are interested. I don't get a hold of most of them. These leads must not be very good. Well, what if that person wasn't following up with every lead? What if that person wasn't calling anyone? What if that person was taking a week to call someone? You would probably want to know that before turning off your ads, because if the ads are doing their job, you want to keep those. If the salesperson or the follow-up person's not doing their job, then maybe you want to look at fixing that first. If you then find somebody who does follow up every single time with every single lead, and then you start converting 30% of all of your leads into sales, well, guess what? Your problem's been solved. You thought it was a lead quality problem, and you realized it was a human error or a laziness or a non-committed employee problem. So you've got to understand what's actually happening in your follow-up if you ever want to fix it. So tracking these things has got to be step one. So what I want you guys to do is, first and foremost, before we go over these kind of required campaigns, I want you to write out, what do you have? Okay, what are you using? What programs are you using? What types of follow-up do you currently have? So do you have text message? Do you have email? Do you have a call tracking number? Do you use Facebook Messenger? Are you using voicemail drops? What do you have currently? We've got to make sure we understand the baseline before you can improve. And then ask yourself, at what points are these pieces of follow-up and these automated campaigns, when do they take place? Do you even know when they take place? Because if not, again, you can never improve them. So make an inventory of all your follow-up. Write down what campaigns you have, what campaigns you don't have, and maybe any thoughts related to what we've talked about today and things that you could implement into your own business. The required campaigns that I would consider to be required is something that we call an indoctrination campaign. And this is for somebody who'd be opting in through maybe like a newsletter sign up or something simple like that. They're just opting in for a piece of content. This could be the campaign that goes out after they get that content or as soon as they opt in for that newsletter or that email list. This is to get them really intertwined in your business, to make sure they know exactly who you are, what you do, your backstory, and to prime them to receive regular communications for you. So that's the very first one. The second one is a lead follow-up campaign. If you are generating leads from any source, those people need a dedicated campaign that is sent to them when they opt in for it. What we do is, if somebody makes a purchase or if somebody schedules a call, we remove them from that campaign because it no longer applies. So again, having automations connected to these campaigns, it makes it a lot more effective. It makes it a lot easier. The third one would be appointment reminders. So it could be a thank you for purchasing, like a post-purchase campaign if you're doing e-commerce, but appointment reminders if someone schedules a call, appointment reminders if someone schedules an appointment. You want to make sure that if you're generating these leads, they're actually getting the reminders. Otherwise, of course, people are going to forget. If you ever see a high no-show rate in your appointments, the first thing you need to do is check and make sure the people signing up are actually getting reminders. It's usually that simple. Not everyone operates from a calendar. I live or die by my calendar. That is what dictates what I've got going on, what I'm going to do. So I always know if I have a call or appointment, but not everybody else does. If it's not on the calendar, they're not going to remember. The next campaign that I'd encourage you to have is a reactivation campaign. This is amazing, and you can use it over and over and over again. I love using them. Some people can use them every 2 months, every 3 months. If you have a new offer every month, you could do it every month. But this one is kind of a no-brainer because it's scooping up anything that has just slipped through the cracks, so to speak. If you can implement this one campaign into your business 4 times a year, you'll immediately see an uptick in sales. I can guarantee it. The next one that you want to have, in my personal opinion, is a post-purchase. So this is not from the e-commerce perspective. That could be considered more an ascension campaign, because if you're doing e-commerce, the goal should then be to get them to buy more. But just a thank you for working with us. Thank you for getting started. Whatever it is that they've actually bought, it's great to be able to give somebody something like that right away to first and foremost, make sure they know that you appreciate it. Secondly, if there's any information they need to know on how to use this product or service they've just purchased, you want to make sure they get that. That is something most businesses completely overlook, but it will reduce customer service after the purchase. Maybe people can't figure out where to go for something. They don't know how to log in for something. All of these different things, just put it in a campaign that will deliver to them automatically when they buy so that you can reduce some of that. And it looks really good to your new customers that they're getting this personalized campaign about the thing that they just purchased. The final thing I'll talk about is a long-term drip campaign. We're not ready yet campaign. There's a lot of other campaigns in between, such as a no-show campaign, the Google review campaign. I probably have 1,000 campaigns in my account, but you want to make sure that you have something that is going to continue to engage your prospects, even if you forget. So most of us are not sitting at the computer writing an email every day or every 2 days. Sometimes you do, but you probably let a long period of time go by before you actually do that next one. That's never going to have consistency. So I have a campaign. I will try and pull this up for you guys real quick. I've got a campaign that is months long of really engaging emails and messages. And I'll turn these off occasionally if I'm doing a lot of personal, timely emails. However, if I don't, I know that I don't actually have to. And that's the beauty of it. Someone can come into this system, and no matter if I take the time to write an email that next day or that next week, I know that they are going to be getting things that will encourage them to continue with the process, or at least stay interested in what I have to say and do. The beauty of that is you can take emails you've already written, you can take pieces of content you've already created, plug them into this campaign, set them up, let them run for people who are just joining the list. And now you know that you do not have to be worried about this every single day or every single week. You've got something running in the background that you have full control over to edit, add to, turn off, turn back on, that will keep your message in the inbox of your prospects. So those are the primary campaigns I want you to be thinking about. Obviously, if you're using a gated content offer, you really want to have a campaign for that, even if it's just one email. And then you send them into something like an indoctrination campaign or one of these long-term drip campaigns. But you can never have someone sign up for something or take an action where you have their contact information and not have an automated campaign for those people to go into. It is so simple to do if you have the tools and if you care, and it will directly contribute not only to the number of leads that you convert, but also to the amount of money they convert for and how many things they buy over time. So do your inventory, figure out which programs you have, figure out which campaigns you have, figure out where these are actually sending. I want you to check on those things, okay? You have to dig into this. Otherwise, you'll never know what you're missing. So thanks again for being here with me today. Hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.